Dreaming big is not just about wanting more. It is about believing that what you desire is possible, even when the evidence around you tells you otherwise. The truth is, most people do not fail because their dreams are too big. They fail because their dreams are too small, or because they never gave themselves permission to dream in the first place. When you dream small, you limit your energy, your imagination, and your growth. When you dream big, you unlock potential you never knew existed. Think about it. Every single breakthrough, every invention, every great success story you admire started with someone daring to dream beyond the boundaries of what was considered reasonable. At some point, they had to stand in front of people who told them it was unrealistic, crazy, or impossible, and still hold on to that vision. That courage, that willingness to dream bigger than your current circumstances, is what changes lives. But dreaming big is not only about ambition. It is about the standard you set for yourself every day. It is about asking, what if I am capable of more than this? What if I could push beyond what I have always accepted? The moment you ask those questions, you stop living in autopilot. You start to look at your life as something you can design, not something you just inherit. The beautiful thing about dreaming big is that it makes you resourceful. A big dream forces you to grow, to think creatively, to rise above the excuses you once believed. You do not need to know the entire path. You only need to know the next step. And the size of your dream will fuel the courage to take that step even when you are scared. Here is the secret. Dreaming big is not a guarantee that everything will work out the way you imagined. But it guarantees that you will live a life of expansion rather than contraction. It guarantees that you will discover parts of yourself you would never have known had you settled for less. And that discovery, that fire, is where fulfillment comes from. So let me ask you, what dream have you buried because you told yourself it was too much? What vision have you dismissed because you were afraid people might laugh? Bring it back. Let it breathe. Give yourself the freedom to dream without limitation. Because in the end, the people who change the world, the ones who inspire generations, are not the ones who thought small. They are the ones who dared to dream bigger than anyone else believed possible. When people hear the phrase "a dream big," they often think it means wanting more money, more recognition, more status, or more possessions. But that is not what dreaming big truly means. Dreaming big is not a craving for more things. It is a belief system. It is about opening your mind to the possibility that life can be bigger, richer, and more fulfilling than you may have ever allowed yourself to imagine. It is about breaking free from the quiet limits you have accepted and saying to yourself, and maybe I can do this. Maybe more is possible for me. Most people live their lives trapped in the cage of a realism. They only dream as far as what feels safe. They set goals that fit inside the frame of what they already know is possible. For example, someone might say, I just want a decent job that pays the bills. There is nothing wrong with that. But if the dream stops there, it means they are shaping their life purely on what they think they can get, rather than what they truly want. A big dream is not about settling for survival. It is about believing in growth, expansion, and becoming a version of yourself that goes beyond survival into significance. The moment you believe more is possible, something magical happens. Your perspective shifts. Instead of looking at obstacles as roadblocks, you begin to see them as stepping stones. Instead of thinking, I cannot do this, you ask, how can I do this? That one change, believing that something is possible, transforms your energy, your actions, and ultimately, your results. Think of it like this. If you were locked inside a room and believed there was no door, you would never even look for one. You would accept the walls as the limits of your life. But if you believed there was a door, you would search. You might push against the walls, feel around for handles, test the windows, and eventually you would find a way out. Belief creates the motivation to search, and the search creates breakthroughs. Dreaming big is not about greed. It is about courage. It takes courage to say, even though I do not see how it will happen, I am going to trust that more is available for me. It is easier to stay small, to keep your desires quiet, and to avoid disappointment. But that safety comes at the cost of your potential. If you only ask life for what you think you can get, you will always live smaller than what you deserve. Every person you admire, whether it is an artist, entrepreneur, leader, or athlete, started by daring to believe more was possible for them. They did not necessarily know the how. They did not have a perfect roadmap, but they gave themselves permission to dream without shrinking it down to fit their current circumstances. That is what separates those who achieve greatness from those who settle. Here is the irony. Dreaming small does not protect you from failure. Even small dreams can fail. Even safe plans can fall apart. So, if there is risk anyway, why not risk it for something that truly excites you? Why not risk it for a vision that lights you up? Whop. Dreaming big is not reckless. It is the most powerful fuel for resilience because when the dream matters deeply enough, you will always find a reason to get back up. At its core, dreaming big is about identity. It is about saying, I am someone who is worthy of more. I am someone who deserves a life of meaning, not just maintenance. That belief shifts how you show up in every area. Your relationships, your work, your health, your confidence. You no longer move through life as if you are begging for scraps. You start moving as though you belong in the arena, as though you are capable of more than you were told. So when you hear the phrase, a dream big, do not confuse it with wanting more things. Dreaming big is about believing more is possible for you. It is about expanding your sense of what is available and giving yourself permission to chase it. The truth is, the size of your dream is the size of your life. And the only limit is not what you want. It is what you believe you can have. It is easy to dream small. Small dreams are comfortable. They do not intimidate us. They do not stretch us. And they rarely invite criticism from others. They are like sitting in a warm room where nothing challenges you to step outside. A small dream might be the dream of just getting by, keeping things stable and making sure life does not get too unpredictable. And while that may feel safe, it also keeps you trapped in a cycle where nothing really changes, where you never discover what you are truly capable of. Big dreams, on the other hand, are different. They are intimidating. They make you uncomfortable because they force you to confront your fears, your doubts, and your limitations. They require you to learn new skills, build resilience, and put yourself in situations you have never been in before. Big dreams push you beyond who you are today so that you can become who you were meant to be tomorrow. Think of it like going to the gym. If you only ever lift the weights that feel easy, you will never build strength. You stay the same. But when you pick up a weight that challenges you, something happens. You may struggle, your muscles may ache, but you grow stronger. That is what a big dream does for your character. It challenges you in ways that small dreams never can. The truth is, the person you are right now may not be ready to achieve your biggest dreams. And that is not a bad thing. In fact, that is the whole point. The process of chasing those dreams will sculpt you into the person who is ready. A big dream is not just about the outcome. It is about who you must become along the way. When you set a big dream, you suddenly find yourself thinking differently. You ask bigger questions. You push yourself out of the circle of comfort and into the arena of growth. And you might fail, but in failing, you learn lessons you could never learn by playing it safe. And with every lesson, you get closer to the kind of person who can not only dream big, but live big. Small dreams keep you safe, yes, but they also keep you stagnant. They protect you from rejection, but they also rob you of discovery. They keep you hidden from failure, but they also hide you from success. You end up living a life where the best parts of you remain unexplored. You never tap into your full potential because you never give yourself a reason to. Now think of the people who inspire you. None of them live by small dreams. They dare to stretch. They put themselves at risk of failure, of embarrassment, of criticism. But in doing so, they unlocked parts of themselves that would have stayed asleep otherwise. They became people who could lead, who could innovate, who could change lives. Big dreams demand growth. They demand that you confront the voice in your head that says, I am not enough. They force you to prove that voice wrong by taking action. They remind you that safety is not the purpose of life. Growth is. And without growth, even safety becomes suffocating. When you set your sights on something bigger than your current reality, you are essentially saying, I am willing to evolve. I am willing to grow into the person who can achieve this. And that choice, that commitment, is what transforms your life. You may not know the exact path. You may not have the full confidence yet. But as you take each step, your confidence grows, your courage builds, and your vision becomes clearer. So yes, small dreams keep you safe, but they also keep you small. Big dreams, even though they may terrify you, are the very thing that awaken your true potential. They shape you, stretch you, and prepare you for the life you were meant to live. And in the end, it is not about whether you achieve every dream exactly as you imagined. It is about becoming the person who had the courage to dream boldly in the first place. When you look at history, when you study the moments that changed the world, you will find a common thread. At the very beginning of every great achievement was someone with an unreasonable dream, a dream that did not fit into the logic of their time. A dream that people called foolish, impossible, or unrealistic. But those people dared to dream it anyway, and because of that courage, the world looks different today. Think about flight. Before the Wright brothers, the idea of humans soaring through the sky was absurd. People believed gravity was final, that human beings were not meant to fly. It was against reason. Yet the Wright brothers had a dream that went beyond what was considered possible. They pursued it, they failed, they faced ridicule, but eventually they changed the way we travel, the way we connect, the way the world operates. Or consider Martin Luther King Jr. when he stood before the world and declared, "I have a dream." He was not speaking about something logical in that moment. He was speaking about a vision that went beyond the reality he lived in. A dream of equality, of unity, of freedom from oppression. People thought it was unrealistic, too idealistic, but it was that very dream, beyond reason, that ignited a movement and reshaped society. Every achievement that now seems normal was once labeled impossible. The light bulb, the internet, space travel, vaccines that save millions of lives. Behind each of these breakthroughs was someone who dared to challenge reason with imagination. They asked a question others were too afraid to ask. What if? What if we could light up the night? Truth. What if we could communicate instantly across oceans? What if we could reach beyond our planet? Dreaming beyond reason is uncomfortable because it requires you to ignore the voices that tell you it cannot be done. Sometimes those voices come from others. Sometimes they come from inside yourself. You hear your own doubts saying, "Who are you to think you can do this? Who are you to imagine something bigger than everyone else?" But the truth is, every visionary heard those same doubts. What made them different was not that they lacked fear, but that they refused to let fear decide what was possible. The world is shaped by unreasonable dreamers. Reasonable people accept the world as it is. They settle for what already exists. Unreasonable dreamers imagine the world as it could be, and then they work to bring it into existence. Without them, progress would stand still. Without them, humanity would remain stuck in the limits of yesterday. Now bring this closer to your own life. You may not be trying to invent the next airplane or lead a global movement, but the principle is the same. Every breakthrough in your personal journey will begin with a dream that goes beyond reason. A dream that might not make sense to those around you. For a dream that challenges the limits of your current reality. Maybe it is the dream of starting your own business when everyone tells you to stick with the safe job. Maybe it is the dream of writing a book when people laugh and say, "Who will read it?" Maybe it is the dream of breaking a cycle in your family that no one else has dared to break. If you only ever dream within the boundaries of reason, you will never stretch beyond what you already know. Reason is safe, but it is also limiting. To live fully, you must allow yourself to dream unreasonably, to hold a vision that others cannot yet see. That vision becomes the fuel for courage, and courage becomes the spark for action. Sure. And here is the beauty. Once you act on that unreasonable dream, once you turn it into reality, it no longer looks unreasonable. It becomes obvious. It becomes normal. People forget that it was ever considered impossible. And that is how the world changes, by brave individuals who see before others believe. So remember this, every great achievement in history began with someone daring to dream beyond reason. And every great achievement in your own life will begin the same way. Do not be afraid to hold a vision that others do not understand. Because the truth is, the greatest dreams are never reasonable at the start. They only become reasonable after someone like you has the courage to make them real. Most people live much of their lives on autopilot. They wake up, go through the motions, and repeat the same patterns day after day. They do not question much because questioning requires energy. They do not challenge much because challenge requires courage. And so, life becomes a routine. Comfortable, predictable, but also limited. The truth is, you cannot live your best life while staying in autopilot mode. To break free, you need a dream big enough to shake you awake. Big dreams do exactly that. They do not allow you to stay in the same patterns that keep you small. They force you to raise your standards for what you will accept from yourself. For example, if your dream is simply to get by, then you will tolerate excuses, distractions, and procrastination. But if your dream is to build something extraordinary, whether that is a career, a relationship, a body of work, or a legacy, suddenly mediocrity is no longer acceptable. The dream demands more of you. Raising your standards is uncomfortable at first. It feels like you are constantly confronting yourself. Fear is natural. The heart races, the body freezes. But if they have a bold vision of experiencing the thrill, of conquering their own limits, they will take the leap. Without the vision, fear wins. With the vision, courage is born. That is exactly how bold dreams work in your life. They give you the push to leap when every part of you wants to stay safe. Another gift of a bold vision is resourcefulness. When your dream is small, you do not need to stretch yourself. You can achieve it with the tools you already have, the knowledge you already know, the people you already trust. But when your dream is bold, bigger than your current capacity, it forces you to search. You become creative. You ask questions you never asked before. You reach out to people you would have been too shy to approach. You read books, take courses, experiment, fail, and try again. Resourcefulness is not something you were born with. It is something your vision demands from you. A small dream whispers, stay comfortable. A bold dream shouts, find a way. And when you are committed to something bigger than your fear, you do find a way. You discover strength you did not know you had, talent you had never used, connections you had never imagined. History is full of examples. Entrepreneurs who started businesses with no money but had a bold vision that kept them knocking on doors until someone said, yes. Athletes who had no facilities or training but improvised with whatever they had because their vision was greater than their lack. Artists who faced rejection after rejection but kept creating because their dream was louder than the criticism. What they all shared was not perfect resources. It was a bold vision that made them resourceful. Fear never disappears. It will always show up when you step into the unknown. But a bold vision reframes fear. Instead of seeing it as a stop sign, you start to see it as a signal that you are on the right path, that you are growing. And when your dream matters enough, fear becomes fuel. You use it to sharpen your focus, to remind yourself that what you are chasing is worth it. The key is this: courage does not come first, vision does. People often wait for courage before they act, but courage is born out of action, and action is inspired by vision. When your dream is bold enough, you cannot help but move. Even if you stumble, even if you fail, the fire of that vision keeps pulling you forward. So you ask yourself, what vision excites you so much that it makes fear feel small in comparison? What dream would force you to become more resourceful than you have ever been? If your vision does not make you a little nervous, if it does not challenge you to find new ways, it is not bold enough. A bold vision makes you resourceful. It gives you courage. It transforms fear from a wall into a stepping stone. And in chasing that vision, you discover not only what you are capable of achieving, but who you are capable of becoming. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that we need to know every single step before we begin. We say things like, I will start when I have a clear plan, or I will begin when I know exactly how it will work out. But here is the truth. No one ever knows the full path. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the ones with all the answers at the start. They are the ones who were brave enough to take the first step without seeing the entire staircase. Dreams are like headlights on a dark road. You cannot see the whole journey, but you can see just enough to keep moving forward. If you wait until the whole road is visible, you will never leave the driveway. And yet, if you keep going step by step, eventually the path reveals itself. Each action you take uncovers the next opportunity, the next connection, the next lesson, the next lesson. The reason most people do not begin is not lack of resources. It is lack of certainty. They want guarantees. But chasing a dream does not come with guarantees. It comes with possibilities. And those possibilities only show up once you start walking. Think about how a child learns to walk. They do not wait until they understand the mechanics of balance, stride, and posture. They take one shaky step, fall, get up, and try again. Every attempt reveals something new to their brain and body. Eventually, they master it. The same principle applies to you and your dreams. You do not need to know the whole strategy. You just need to start moving. Dreams have a way of fueling the journey. Once you commit to a vision, you tap into a deeper source of motivation. That energy carries you through the uncertainty. Even when you do not know exactly how to get there, the dream itself keeps you curious, keeps you searching, keeps you alive. Without the dream, every obstacle feels like a dead end. With the dream, every obstacle feels like a puzzle to be solved. Take entrepreneurs, for example. Most of them did not know how they were going to scale their businesses when they started. They did not know how they would find investors, customers, or partners. What they had was an idea they believed in, and they took the first step. They learned as they went. The path revealed itself in the doing, not in the waiting. Or consider authors. Quote, many best-selling writers admit that when they start a book, they do not know the entire plot. They have a starting point, a vision of what they want to express, and they begin writing. As the story unfolds, new ideas appear that they never could have planned in advance. The act of beginning unlocks the creativity. That is how your life works too. Action creates clarity. Every step you take gives you feedback. Some steps lead to breakthroughs. Others lead to lessons, but both move you forward. Waiting for the full path is like waiting for the ocean to part before you step in. It will never happen. The water clears as you walk. Fear will try to convince you otherwise. It will say, what if you make a mistake? What if you fail? But here is the secret. You will make mistakes. You will fail at times. That is not a problem. It is the process. Failure is not the opposite of progress. It is part of progress. Every failure teaches you something that brings you closer to the next step. So, the question is not, do I know the entire plan? The question is, am I willing to take the next step I can see? That step might be as simple as making a phone call, sending an email, signing up for a class, or saving your first dollar. It might feel small, but small steps compound into massive change. Trust that the journey will unfold as you go. Trust that the dream will provide the fuel you need when the road gets hard. And trust that you do not need to know everything. You only need to know the next step. Because the truth is, clarity does not come before action. It comes because of action. So do not wait until you have it all figured out. Take the step you can see right now. Let that step lead to the next one and the next, until one day you look back and realize you have walked a path you never could have mapped out in the beginning. When people hear the words "a dream big," many immediately think of success, fame, wealth, recognition, or achievement. And yes, big dreams can lead to extraordinary success. But the true value of dreaming big is not in the guarantee of reaching every outcome. The true value lies in who you become in the process, in the growth you experience, and in the sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing you dared to live fully instead of playing it small. Here is the reality. Not every big dream will happen exactly the way you imagine. Some dreams will take longer than expected. Some will evolve into something different. Some might even lead you down paths that do not end where you first intended. But in every single case, if you dared to dream bigger than your comfort zone, you will grow in ways that would have been impossible otherwise. Success is not the only measure of a dream. Growth is, fulfillment is, when you dream big, you stretch yourself. You face fears you would never confront if you stayed small. Develop discipline, resilience, creativity, and courage. Even if the dream shifts along the way, those qualities stay with you forever. They become part of who you are. Think of someone who sets out to climb a mountain. Their dream is to reach the summit. But even if, for some reason, they do not make it all the way, maybe the weather turns, maybe they must stop halfway, they still walk away transformed. Their body is stronger, their spirit is braver, their perspective on what is possible has expanded. That is what dreaming big does. It changes you regardless of whether the dream unfolds perfectly. Many people avoid big dreams because they are afraid of disappointment. They think, what if I fail? What if I don't get there? But here is the irony. Avoiding big dreams does not protect you from disappointment. It guarantees it. Because even if you succeed at something small deep down, you will feel the emptiness of knowing you never went for what you truly wanted. You will always wonder, what if I had tried? Or, that regret is far heavier than the pain of failure. Fulfillment comes not from always winning, but from always daring. When you go after a big dream, you wake up with energy because you know you are chasing something that matters. You are no longer living someone else's script, and you are writing your own. That sense of purpose, of pursuing something meaningful, is what creates a life you are proud of. And here is the paradox. When you focus on growth and fulfillment instead of just the outcome, success often follows anyway. The skills you develop, the resilience you build, the person you become, those things create opportunities you could never have planned for. Even if one dream does not unfold, another often rises in its place, built on the foundation of who you have become. Look at some of the most successful people in the world. Many of them failed repeatedly before achieving what we now celebrate. Authors who faced dozens of rejections before publishing a bestseller. Entrepreneurs who launched failed ventures before building billion-dollar companies. Leaders who lost elections before finally making history. Their first dreams did not always go as planned, but every step gave them growth and clarity, and that growth led them to fulfillment and ultimately to success. So if you are holding back because you think dreaming big is risky, remember this: playing small is just as risky. But it comes with a hidden cost, the cost of a life unlived. Dreaming big does not guarantee that everything will work out the way you want. But it does guarantee that you will live with passion instead of passivity, growth instead of stagnation, fulfillment instead of regret. At the end of your life, you will not measure your worth by how perfectly every dream came true. You will measure it by whether you had the courage to dream in the first place, and whether you became someone stronger, wiser, and more alive along the journey. So, do not let the fear of uncertainty stop you. Dream big, not because success is certain, but because growth is certain. Dream big, not because fulfillment is guaranteed at the finish line, but because fulfillment is guaranteed in the act of daring itself. And that is what makes a life truly worth living. If you look back through the history of humanity, you will notice something striking. Every great leap forward was driven by people who refused to think small. The ones who thought within the limits of what was already known, already proven, already accepted, those people kept the world exactly as it was. But the ones who dared to dream without limits, who allowed their imagination to reach beyond the borders of reason, they are the ones who changed everything. Dreaming small is safe. It is comfortable. It does not attract criticism. It does not stir doubt. It does not invite resistance. But it also does not inspire. It does not innovate. And it certainly does not change the world. Thinking small preserves what already exists. Dreaming big transforms it. Consider Thomas Edison. If he had thought small, he would have settled for improving candles. Instead, he dared to dream of harnessing electricity to light up the night, and his vision gave us the light bulb, an invention that reshaped how humanity lives. Or look at the Wright brothers. If they had thought small, they would have designed a faster bicycle. Instead, they dreamed of human flight, something most of the world thought impossible, and they revolutionized transportation forever. It is not only in science or invention. Social change, too, has always been driven by dreamers without limits. Think of Nelson Mandela, who dreamed of a South Africa free of apartheid when such an idea seemed impossible. Or Rosa Parks, who in one simple act of defiance dreamed of dignity and equality. These were not reasonable dreams. They were bold, limitless visions that rattled systems and awakened movements. The same principle applies to your own life. If you think small, your impact will remain small. If you dream within the boundaries of what feels safe, you will live a life that may be comfortable but will never truly inspire. But if you dare to dream without limits, you give yourself the chance to not only change your own world, but to influence the lives of others. Limitless dreaming does not mean reckless fantasizing. It means refusing to let fear, doubt, or the opinions of others define what you believe is possible. It means holding a vision so strong that it pulls you through resistance and setbacks. It means daring to imagine something better, even when the evidence around you says otherwise. And here is the paradox. When you dream without limits, people may call you unrealistic. They may laugh, they may doubt, they may resist. But those are the exact same reactions that every world changer faced. Unreasonable dreams always look impossible until someone makes them real. Once they are real, people forget they ever doubted. What was once laughed at becomes obvious, inevitable, even taken for granted. The world does not need more small thinkers. It does not need more people who simply maintain what already exists. It needs people bold enough to imagine a future beyond the present. People who dare to ask, what if? What if we could cure that disease? What if we could end that injustice? What if we could connect the world in ways no one has tried before? And here is the most important part. You do not have to be famous to change the world. You can change the world. You can change the world of your family, your community, your workplace. You can inspire others by the example of your courage. Sometimes the boldest dream is not about inventing something new, but about breaking a cycle, creating opportunity where there was none, or choosing love where there was hate. These dreams may not make headlines, but they transform lives just the same. So the question is not whether you are capable of dreaming without limits. You are. The question is whether you will give yourself permission. Because when you do, you step into a legacy far greater than yourself. You become part of the same lineage as the inventors, leaders, and changemakers who came before you. Not because you did the same thing they did, but because you carried the same spirit, the courage to dream without boundaries. Ooh. The world is changed not by those who think small, but by those who dare to dream without limits. That truth has been proven in every generation. And it will be proven again by you, if you are willing to let your imagination lead you past fear, past doubt, and into possibility. Dreaming big is not just about setting goals. It is about setting your life on fire with purpose. It is about believing more is possible for you, daring to push beyond comfort, and embracing the growth that comes when you raise your standards. It is about acting even when the path is unclear, finding courage even when fear is loud, and remembering that the size of your dream shapes the size of your life. The world has never been moved by small thinkers. It has always been transformed by those bold enough to imagine, without limits, emits. And so I challenge you, do not shrink your vision to fit your circumstances. Expand your belief to match your potential. Dream bigger than your doubts, bigger than your fears, and bigger than the life you have been told to settle for. Because when you do, you will not only create the future you desire, you will become the person you were always meant to be.